Now implement the subscribe method in your custom use state hook. Let's do it quickly. So what we can do, let's declare an array of listeners. It will keep track of all the functions. It will return the functions when the state changes. So it will hold all the functions, all the listeners which comes on each state change. So what we can do here, we will write a function. Let me clear. So it is going to be a subscribe function, and here we will get the listener, and here we will write our logic. So in the here we can see this is the subscribe method which I am destructuring from this array, and it is sending a function as a callback. I'm sending a function as a callback inside the subscribe. So as you can see here I am getting a function. This is a function. So what I will do, I will just post that function inside the listeners class. Just post the listener. I post the listener, and if you can see in the use effect, I am using a cleanup logic in the return unsubscribe. That means we need a function here as a return. So subscribe must return a function. So let's return a function from here. So what we will return here, we will write a logic. Let's make the listeners equal to listeners dot filter. We will filter if, let's make it L, if the L not equal to your listener, this listener, because it will remove all the duplicates. Like if it is not equal to this listeners dot filter L not equal to listeners, so it will filter out. This is what the cleanup logic here. So this is a subscribe method. We can also remove, we can also return it from in the same array for the restructuring. And here one important thing, we need to call the listeners here on each state change. So what we can do here, listeners dot for each. So it is going to your listener, then we will call your listener as enr. It's going to be very simple, the listener. So this is how we can introduce our custom rendering mechanism inside this your custom use state hook. Now let's check the complete flow once. So whenever this screen app.tsx loads, it will call this function subscribe. It will send a callback. Inside that I'm using force update. I'm incrementing the previous value inside this. Now let's go inside this. When I'm receiving this listener, I'm pushing it in the state here in the array, and it is returning me this if any duplicates found, or if it is, if listeners dot filter L not equal to listener, if it is doesn't match from, if it doesn't match with any of this, in that case we can filter out. So and here when I'm calling set state in the function, set state will send you new function, new value, and if it is not function, in that case value will be your current state, and then listeners which we pushed from here, then listeners will be for each and it will be called like this. Now let's see the output of here, what we can do. Let's make the handle click. Set state plus 1 state plus 1. Now let's click and see the output. Now let's test the complete flow. So we have implemented our custom use state hook. We have implemented current state, listeners, and subscribe and set state method. We are returning the array. Now let's test it here. So this is our UI button or handle click. On the handle click, I'm just incrementing the value of the state, and UI click me. So if I click on that, now let's see the output here. If I click on that, our value should increment. If I clicked, I got the 3. Now let's refresh it first. See here we have initial value as 0 and we want to increment it with the button. I clicked, it's well incrementing, as you can see. So this is how you can implement a custom use state hook. It is not like the use state as we have in our React, but it is depicting the same functionality like the use state. We can understand it from this for the educational purpose, for the learning, and for understanding the background functionality of the use state generally. Let me give you one complete flow once. So when I'm clicking on this, what is happening? So let me go first. When I load this screen app.tsx, our subscribe method sent an argument that is a callback function. Inside that I'm using force update function. So when I receive the callback here, I'm just pushing it in the array, listeners array, and then I'm calling the set state on the handle click. I'm incrementing this value. I'm passing this function in the set state. In the set state, I'm getting a function in the new value. If it is function, then I'm just calling this function with the state. I got the value from the previous value. I'm setting the incremented value in the set state. So what happens when the state changes? So I call this listeners dot for each listeners dot listeners. I'm calling the listener here function here. When I call that listener, it increments the value. What happens? Listeners is a list of all the functions which keep track of the functions on the state change. When the state changes, or value also changes. So when here we get the updated current value from the customer. So that's why I'm consoling it here. You can see the output now. This is how you can implement the custom hook use state. It is not like the real use state because that have real rendering mechanism implemented inside that, but I also try to introduce the rendering mechanism using use state itself from the React by passing it here in the listeners that will listen for the state change. In the upcoming videos, I will implement very popular custom hooks like handling forms, handling APIs, data loading, errors, also handling app state and theme. If you like the video, please subscribe. Thank you for watching.